It is October 6th, 2021, the Daily Rob, and we are here with the pound for pound champ, the legend himself, Rob Smith.
Stu, did I ever tell you I boxed in college?
Yeah, we mentioned it in the little podcast about UVA.
Oh, I did? Okay. Anyway, I boxed in college. And I was fast on my feet, Stu.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
There you go. It was very barbaric. Nowadays, people, they would send all the students to some sort of, to get psychiatric help. But in men's gym, there were like 300 people around your ring. And it was kind of like the Roman Colosseum where everybody was just screaming for death and murder. And you'd be in the middle of it, fighting for your life.
Damn.
Yes, indeed.
So what stories are you keeping an eye on today?
Stu, we're living in a totalitarian state, and people ought to know about this, and they ought to be concerned. Merrick Garland, the weaselly looking old man who is the Attorney General of the United States, has sicked the FBI on parents of students. Apparently, if you criticize critical race theory or having your child wear a mask in school, that makes you a domestic terrorist. And he has ordered the FBI to look into this and to take procedures to thwart this great national threat to the United States that these parents of 6-year-olds have. In other words, Stu, they want to stamp out any debate. If you read Marx and know anything about the Soviet Union, all about preserving the Marxist state is to brainwash your kids. And that's what they're trying to do there. And they're using Gestapo, KGB, GRU tactics, and it's disgusting, and people ought to be concerned about it. Another act of totalitarianism is the Southern District of New York federal courts. They have raided the New York City Benevolent Association, which is a police union, basically. And they have 24,000 members in New York. They, for the first time ever, endorsed a presidential candidate last year. Guess who they endorsed?
Donald Trump.
They did, and they were raided today. Both their headquarters and the outspoken president of the union, who has denounced the politicians who want to defund the police and let real domestic terrorism run wild in New York, burning and looting and things of that nature. Another act of totalitarianism, Stu, is it was in congressional testimony yesterday. It was revealed that the FBI has not investigated Antifa at all because they don't consider them an organized group. Now, bear in mind, I've seen them pull up in buses in Richmond and take out their battle gear. They're obviously well funded. They're paid to be terrorists. We all know that. And yet the FBI doesn't investigate them when obviously there's money laundering, there's looting and burning, and it's a lot of it is centrally directed. They threaten people. 750 cops were injured last year. Billions and billions of property damage, political intimidation. But they're not a threat. Parents of 6-year-olds are a threat. That's what we're living under.
And the German government does have Antifa listed as a terrorist group.
Well, good for them.
Yes.
They also have what's L. Ron Hubbard? What's his group?
Scientology.
They also have Scientologists pegged.
The FBI has Yogaville up the road listed as a cult. So
Yogaville, really?
yeah,
What have they ever done to anybody?
I think it's their head guru is considered a kind of a cult, a personality-esque figure, and so they're on
Kind of like a Jim Jones. They're afraid they're going to drink a bunch of punch.
Yeah, essentially.
You know, if you drive through Nelson County, you can hear them chanting.
Yeah, the
My
hard
freedom
Christian
was
chants and all that.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Now please join me now as we chant the names of Krishna together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
But you know, I don't have any problem with them.
Yeah.
Being the progressive, tolerant person that I am still.
I mean, God forbid they started their own town. They're seemingly self-sufficient, and they want to be left alone. God forbid.
Yeah, they're like the Amish. I mean, you know, they're not hurting anybody. I bet you the Amish are a real threat to these folks, to the left. One, they believe in God. That's a no-no. Two, they got plenty of money. And so obviously they want to get their hands on it. And three, they don't need them for anything. It's the way I want to live, Stu, on a farm with my mules and my horses, plowing my own fields, off the grid, reading my books and being left alone.
The dream.
Naturally, I would have a harem there, though.
And then I shall serve out the rest of my term as consul and then retire quietly to the provinces where I will plow my fields and fuck my slaves. Just like old Cincinnatus. And the Republic shall roll on without me. I swear, on the Black Stone, I am done with politics. Oh, you people play too rough.
Hunter Biden had his art show in Los Angeles last night. And, you know, he is there's never been an artist like him since the Italian Renaissance.
He understands beautiful things.
Oh God, yes. And he can express himself so well. But anyway, his artworks was being listed beforehand, 75,000 for his scribblings on paper and 500,000 for a large painting. And there were 200 of the glitterati there, including the mayor, Garcetti. And it's just, it is so rotten to the core. It's money laundering, it's buying influence, it's disgusting, but nobody does anything. It's, hey, you know, it's business as usual. But we just need to get that broom out, Stu, and sweep Washington clean.
Definitely.
And you, Stu, what erudite comments do you have on the world today? Your fans want to know.
So kind of building on this concept of corruption and maybe how corruption can start small. Ro Khanna, who I like sometimes and dislike at others, he was very inspired by what the president said. And this concerns, you know, all the negotiation that's going on right now for the infrastructure spending. Rep. Ro Khanna had this to say. And the president said something that really struck me. When the New Deal started, it wasn't the New Deal that we study in the history books. It started with some small programs and then it grew. And I think that is compelling. If we can get a number of these programs funded, we establish the base for which they can dwell in the future. So the way that interprets to me is we can have monsters, but it's okay right now if they're small, as long as we get them in and we can just feed them moving forward.
The
So
left has always been very, very good at incrementalism.
yes. And so I read that and I'm just horrified. The New Deal, I think, was a massive change in our American history and kind of the beginning of this massive federal power state that we see today. So
No question, it started the whole entitlement state, and it threw a wet blanket on rugged individualism and kind of this corporatism that we're going to take care of you type of thing. And it's been very destructive.
and then in that same kind of vein, concerning all the negotiations going on for this bill, Sinema was once again harassed, this time on an airplane. Can't escape anywhere on an airplane unless you're armed with a parachute. And so that happened. And then to answer your question concerning, who funds these groups, I did a little digging. And so both Soros and Zuckerberg had donated to Lucha. And then Lucha has also received money from other senators like Bob Mendez, Catherine Cortez Masto, and Alex Padilla. And so
you should qualify that by saying that the senators directed the money. They didn't actually give their own money.
yes,
Money that other people gave them to buy influence, they're directing other places.
well, and then those three that I listed are affiliated with the Hispanic caucus. And so some of the money that the Hispanic caucus had went to Lucha, and Zuckerberg has an organization that gives out money. So how much was he involved? I have no idea.
These people know very well that the money they're giving away goes to these quasi-terrorist Marxist groups.
Yeah, essentially groups that keep them entrenched in power.
Right. And do you not think that there is some sort of an agreed purpose? Hey, we'll give you this money, but we want you to do these things. Nobody gives away money unless they think they're getting something in return.
Yeah, or they're buying them off, don't bug me.
Yeah.
Say I'm a moderate out of Nevada, which has kind of been the big criticism concerning.
Well, along these lines, I have not dug into this much either, but there is a story about the Pandora Papers. And it's about how Peter Schweiker, who wrote that book on corruption in Washington, he's uncovered that George Soros, Tom Steyer, and some other folks, they manipulate the media. The media runs a negative story on some big company, drives down the price, they buy the stock. And there's, or in the case of Soros, he invested $1.1 billion into some green energy deals before Obama in 2008 directed a bunch of money to those deals, knowing that it would increase the value. And that's the type of thing you have in Washington. You've got this crony capitalism. And one of the reasons that Soros spent so much money in 2020 against Trump is because those deals die with somebody who wants to get rid of the deep state like Donald Trump does.
And that perfectly kind of goes into my next story concerning Bitcoin. So one of the big criticisms of cryptocurrency has kind of been that market manipulation that you see, where someone like an Elon Musk can say, buy Dogecoin, and the value, goes up 500% overnight. God rest his soul, John McAfee made a ton of money doing this with lesser known cryptocurrencies, where he would promote them, they would skyrocket, and then he would sell his holdings. But Bitcoin is now holding steady again at $50,000 a coin. And that is because Bank of America is essentially signaling that they are going to start incorporating a crypto wallet into their settings as a bank. And this is a bounce back after China essentially said, we think crypto is bad and we're going to make it illegal to have cryptocurrency. And so we do kind of see how this alternative form of currency has a very volatile market that, you know, can be manipulated depending on what kind of coin or crypto you're looking at. But Bitcoin is considered the stablest one as of right now. Bitcoin and Ethereum are considered the top two, but it's nice to see it sitting at 50K again. I think that's a great thing.
Well, it's nice to see an alternative to what we might call the Fed and the manipulation of markets that they did. It might keep some restraint on them over a period of time.
And the Biden administration has come out as being negative about Bitcoin and crypto multiple times.
Of course, and control it. So, I mean, yeah, but that is the big jeopardy in owning Bitcoin is the government can wipe it out. Can take measures to really devalue it.
So one of the prevailing theories, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds with this, is that they already have crypto holdings. There's also been discussion that they will.
Who's that?
The U.S. government has crypto holdings that, in theory, they could print off a bunch of money and then just buy all Bitcoin if they wanted to. But just concerning like someone like Ross Ulbricht, am I getting his last name right? He was the founder of Silk Road, but he had massive crypto holdings and they seized everything he owned. So they have a lot of what he had as he sits in jail for 2.5 life sentences. But
it's still just a teeny fraction of what the totality of the Bitcoin market is. But yeah, I get you.
But we just don't know what they have. Because they could be buying.
You don't know what they'll do too. If you're living in this totalitarian state we are right now, where they want to prosecute people for complaining about critical race theory at a school board meeting, they're apt to do anything.
And so they might have that same tactic where Jen Psaki says Bitcoin is evil, Bitcoin funds drugs and human trafficking. And then
so do dollars.
Yes. But then they go off and buy it after the press conference and it's tanked. So
always follow the money, Stu.
Yeah. But those were my 3 big stories for the day. One other thing I want to touch on is that Anderson Cooper did come to the defense of Sinema and said it was ridiculous that would happen. But I think that has more to do with him being a Vanderbilt and an elite and wanting to protect the elite class than him being a nice, good person.
That's right. He doesn't want the barbarians at the gate in front of his Hamptons mansion.
Yeah.
Speaking of barbarians, Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar said it was perfectly okay to harass Senator Sinema the way they did. Another element of this cabal of the media and the state being entrenched together and things turning much more totalitarian.
Yeah.
And of course, people on the other side don't denounce that. I would denounce that. If I was on the other side of something, chasing a lady into the bathroom, and, just
chasing anyone into an area where they can't escape is, in my opinion, a form of coercion.
Yeah, especially when you're in part of a group that threatens people which is that group does. So anyway, Stu.
Well, let's end on a happy note. Some motivation for this Wednesday morning.
Well, Stu, I think people should be the ball.
Be the ball.
Be the ball.
Okay. I'll stew over what that means, but right on.
Be the ball, Stu.
Okay. Have a good day.
All right, bye.
Just let it happen. Be the ball. Be the ball, Danny. You're not being the ball, Danny.
Well, it's kind of difficult with you talking like that.
Okay, I'm not talking.